around you changed and things came to life. Was it beautiful when you saw everything?
Good morning. Good morning. I want to say good morning to all the ladies and gentlemen in the room this morning. Welcome to Breakfast of Champions, hosted by Marilyn Denise Coaching Services. Our lines open up in the morning at 5:30 a.m. with some good worship music from Miss Nene Houston. Nene, I love the music selection you had this morning. It was just kind of upbeat, lifting, and just getting us ready for this excited week that we have, because we have a lot going on this week. I got a lot of notes for us and house rules and everything going on. And then at 5:45, our hosts come on again with either our notes or the takeaways. And then at 6:15. We get started with our speaker. So just go ahead and get your coffee, your breakfast, or whatever you need to get settled in, to just worship the Lord and just give him all the praise and all the glory for just waking us up in the morning time. So before we just go ahead and get started, let's go ahead and just open up the room in prayer. Father, I just want to thank you, my God, for just waking us up this morning, my God, bringing us all together as one. Lord, I thank you for just the things that you're doing in our lives, Father. You know the things that we're asking for. You know the things we're standing in need of, my God. I thank you for just letting us know that you're with us, my God, that you'll never forsake us, Father. Thank you for just the doors that you're about to open, my God, the pathway that you're clearing for us, Father. Thank you for just covering us, my God, as we go day to day, Father. Lord, I just want to ask that you just be with us in this room this morning, my God. Let your presence be known in here today, Father. Um, thank you for just who you are, Father. Just a loving God, just a patient God, being patient with us, my God, giving us time, forgiving us, my God, for falling short of your glory and still loving us as we do that, Father. Thank you for your teaching, my God, your grace and your mercy, my God, that you give us every day, Father. Lord, I ask that you just come on in with the speakers this week, Father, and come on in with Miss Sabrina today, my God. Give her the words to speak, my God, as she download with us, my God. I ask that you refill her up at the end of the day, Father. And Lord, I pray and ask it all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Again, I just want to say welcome and good morning to everyone that's in the room and whoever listened to the replays later on today. I want to say good morning, welcome to Breakfast of Champions. Again, like I was saying, so this week we have a powerful week this week and a busy week this week. So I kind of got some notes for us because we got a lot going on this week for some of us. As you know, we're studying in the book of The People Factor by Dr. Van Moody. And so our speakers are coming in this week with some great messages. And I'm excited to see how they're going to come in with a twist with these topics, because this really is a good book, y'all. So on Monday, which is today, Miss Sabrina gonna come in on chapter 10, changing places, the law of constructive transition. Then Mr. Harlan on Tuesday, he's gonna come in at chapter 13, when helping you is killing me, how to have healthy relationships with unhealthy people. And then on Wednesday, I have Miss Joycelyn with chapter 6. Everybody has to give the law of sacrifice. Gonna be a good one. And then Thursday, Miss Nan, she coming in. I have part 2 with chapter 13, when helping you is killing me, how to have a healthy relationship with unhealthy people. So we have Mr. Harlan and Miss Nan coming in, doing the same chapter, but it's gonna be a different twist. But the guy gonna just come on in, he gonna work it out. And then Miss Tangela, she coming in on chapter 9. Is that person really on your side? The law of loyalty. So again, it's gonna be a good week. I'm excited to see what the Lord is gonna come on in this week in this room and reveal to us and give some resolution, give some confirmations, and I'm excited to see what He's about to do. And actually, in all our lives, I'm really excited to see. And so, and then again, tonight, y'all, we have, don't forget, we have Naomi's Love tonight at 6:30 with Miss Marilyn. So that's going to be exciting, again, this evening, once you get home and get settled in, to come on in again with the word, see what God is speaking to us about. And then on Friday, y'all, for the ones we leave for Broken Bow, for everyone who's going, I think that morning, I think Ms. Marilyn said we're still going to do the morning calls in the morning. So that won't change. And then we'll get ready to leave after, later that morning for Broken Bow. So we have, like I said, just a powerful week. And so I'm excited to see, everyone at the end of the week at Broken Bow. This is my first time going, so I'm excited to see everybody and just get together and fellowship and just talk and just have a good time, just relax. And so this weekend was a good weekend. It was a quiet weekend, but it was a good weekend. I just kind of with family and just kind of just did some things, whatever, but it was exciting. So anyone had a good weekend this morning? Anyone want to talk about how they had their weekend? How did it go? Was it busy? Was it relaxing? Or what did y'all do this weekend?
Good morning. Good morning, beautiful. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Miss Marie.
I had a wonderful weekend, thanks be to God. Busy, but wonderful. Spent time doing some things that I hadn't done before in a while. I can't say I haven't done before, but hadn't done in a while. And church was just awesome. I know that my pastor has not read The People Factor, but he sure was out in that book this week. I'm like, oh, wow, look at God, confirmation. I said, I'm going to have to buy him that book because he was definitely off into The People Factor book. We have a male chorus that really sung to blow my socks off this week. I was like, what is going on with these men folks? They usually are kind of like, they sung real good this week. I'll put it that way. They really, really did. So I had a good week and I'm excited about this week. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go to Broken Bow because I have other things going on this weekend with my family. So we're doing some things. But other than that, I am excited. I'm prayerful for everyone that's going. I'm ready. I'm ready for this week. I know that Miss Sabrina is going to open up this word and I just love your smile, girl. You have a beautiful smile.
Thank you.
Love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm ready. I hope everybody else is ready because I'm ready. This is a day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. This is a jumpstart week, and I'm ready for it. I am ready for everything that He's gonna give us this week. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Marie. Miss Marie, I'm ready too. It's gonna be a good week. It's a busy week, but it's gonna be a good week. And like you said, Miss Sabrina gonna come on in with her word. This today just to get us started. So I am just really excited. Thank you for sharing this morning. Hey, anyone else? How was your weekend? What y'all do this weekend?
Good morning, Latoya.
Good,
Go ahead. Go ahead,
good,
whoever that is.
good
Thank you,
morning,
Tangela.
Regina.
Good morning, Todd.
Hey.
Now, everybody, y'all might not know, but I'm about to get her. I constantly be on top about her hair. It just makes me so upset when she cuts it, but through the years, she cut it, she grew it back. But I gotta tell you, baby, that chop is, yeah, it's purity tight. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
I usually give her the blues when she cut her hair, but every so often she cuts it for it to get healthy. I like that bob, honey. You doing that? But yeah, I couldn't wait to get on this morning to see how much you got cut off. So I can deal with that. I can deal with that. I had a bit as usual, a busy weekend working. That's mainly what I did. But I'm so glad and so excited that I'm going to be able to go on the trip this weekend. I did go and get my son's stuff for the prom, so I got that taken care of. Saturday, got the prom coming up, May the 6th. So then I worked. So that's about all I did. That's about all I ever do. So I'm really excited about this upcoming break. I just cannot wait. I'm so excited.
Mhm.
And yes, I love it. You look beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Yes, I know you did work. Yes, but I know I'm glad you got the Avery's prom stuff situated. It's just so just can't believe how fast time has flown. He's a senior, finna graduate and go off to school. Girl, you finna have, you're gonna be no kids at home with the grandbabies. So, and I'm sure they're gonna keep us busy, not just you, us. So. Yeah, I'm so thank you for just sharing this morning, Regina. Miss Tangela.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning to
Good.
all. I hope everyone is having a wonderful morning. And yes, Miss Regina, I saw somebody had a prom this weekend too. I was seeing all the
Mhm.
seniors out with their prom dresses on and their friends and dates and stuff. So that's always an exciting time. And yes, Miss Latoya, your hair looks beautiful. I had noticed that too
Thank
this
you.
morning. So you look beautiful this morning, and
Thank you.
radiant smile. Um, let's see, this weekend, God had been on me about getting the women in my family together. So I planned like a painting with a twist.
Mhm.
We prayed, we did table talk, we danced, we ate, we laughed. It was just such a wonderful event. And I was, because when it came to me, I was like, okay, it came to me right after like I said, I told y'all about the shingle situation. And I was like, I was already tired. My body was exhausted. And I just know that this is, bringing people together is something that I love to do. Is something that I'm gifted in. And he wanted me to start with my family because, as women, we got to come together, and especially when you're sensing something in your prayer time, you kind of gotta, be obedient to that. So I just got my family, the women in my family together, and just to kind of like lay eyes on everybody, kind of see where, everybody is. Because, people don't like to talk all the time, but just to love on my family, the women in my family. And we've been trying to do that. My grandmother, she's been deceased for a while, but she was the one who kept everyone together. So
Mhm.
um, we all try to do little things here and there. It's not the same, of course, but I'm just trying to do my part and making sure my family is staying healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually. And it was a little exhausting, trying to get everything together, but it was well worth it. God, He was in the midst of it all. So I'm glad everybody else had a wonderful weekend as well. And thank you for allowing me to share this morning.
Thank you for sharing, Miss Tangela. You know what? I want to do that painting with a twist. I've never done that with her, but I know a lot of people, do little get-togethers and just, with their friends or family with the pain with the twist. And I'm glad that you did that. It just helped with just the kind of mental check-in, just everybody get together, just talking and just, seeing how everyone is, because tomorrow is never is not promised. So, and it's just good that you did that. If God put it on your heart to do that, and you went, and you got it together and did it. Because you just never know. It's just so much going on in the world now, and stuff like that, and families and stuff like that. So just by you just getting together, being with them, and it's special. So I just thank you for sharing that this morning. Anyone else want to talk how their weekend was? Good
Good morning, Toya. You
morning, Miss
looking
Lynn.
beautiful as always.
Thank you, thank
This weekend, we actually, the youth in the church, and we actually did uh, a bless. We called it blessed baskets, but we went and filled up ice chests and bags and stuff for the homeless, and then handed them out and everything like that. So that was the start to Saturday morning. It was really good, and then actually I put into practice the people factor book when Mr. Harlan was talking Tuesday about the cluttering and stuff. I actually came home Saturday and did that. I think I threw some, gave so much stuff
you.
out, and I had a whole expedition full of stuff to go and donate and everything. So I was like, oh wow, it's still going through stuff. Then I went in my closet and I'm going through my closet. I'm gonna wear that. And what I can't get these shoes away. Let's go with this outfit. And
That's
how
that's
long
it.
has it been since you wore that outfit? Get out of here. But it was a good weekend, amazing weekend, and everything. And then, like I said, had to actually put the People Factor book into play. And on Saturday, I was teasing one of my um, members, and I was telling her, I was like, I'm gonna go down the street and go get my coffee and my donuts and stuff at Dunkin'. And she's like, girl, you don't need no coffee and no donut. I said, yeah, you're right, but I'm still gonna stop and give me a coffee. And so I did, and end up I wasn't just going to go get coffee. I actually ran into a lady. I'm looking at her the whole time, just watching. I wasn't staring at her, but just watching her. And me and my son got ready to leave, and I told him go on to the car, and I, stopped her and I talked to her. And I said, would you like, a cup of coffee or something? And she said,
Oh,
for real? I said, yeah, for real. And she said, well, she told me what she wanted. I said, no, you coming to the counter with me. And so she did that. Her name is Molly. Y'all keep her in prayer, because not only is she on the street, she's actually pregnant. So but beautiful spirit, everything. She, I mean, was talking, and she wasn't in there just asking for stuff. And you could
mhm.
tell she was there frequently, because she was like, it's really crowded today. And she said, oh yeah, it's Saturday. I forgot. And I was like, okay. But it was good. Like I said, I went there for coffee, but it wasn't really the coffee I was going for. It ended up I needed to be there just to see her and talk to her, and then not just to for her, but for myself as well, to be reminded to myself as well, still you were meant to be a blessing. Don't go and say you're gonna do something and you're not gonna
Mhm.
do it. Here it is, you went and made these bags and stuff. Did you do it for selfish reasons, for a pat on the back, for what? So now I'm gonna put you to the test and see if you really
Mhm.
gonna be not just a mouthpiece, but just really do what you say you're gonna do and what you say you want to do. So okay, that's it. But it was a great weekend, y'all, and I thank y'all. Inside, you're gonna enjoy Broken Bow. It's really beautiful, really beautiful. You're gonna enjoy it.
I'm
And happy
ready.
birthday, everyone.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Mimi. Yeah, I wrote down a couple of things. Yeah, that decluttering thing. That was my thing, and I always run in there and be like, "Ooh, no, I don't want to get that. I don't want to get that away. It ain't wood, and I can't tell you how long." And then just think about, I didn't want to give it away, but I went on and gave it away just just cause I didn't need it. I had wood in so long, so I didn't need it. But then it was a blessing that there's acts of service. Like I said, we do acts of service every day. It may be something small, it ain't always monetary and nothing like that. It just acts of service. It can be just a kind word, or just saying hello to someone, or just talking, because you just never know what people going through. It's been a lot of people, committing suicide, and people that without that was young or older, doing stuff like that. So you just never know what people is going through. They smile and be going through things. So just by you doing that, that's just God calling, doing good acts of services, and just worshiping and praising God. being thankful, being a blessing to someone else. It's always, always the key. It's being a blessing for someone else, to someone else. Thank you for sharing that, Miss Nene. Anyone else have a good weekend? I'm sure everyone did. Want to talk about it, had a testimony or something? I know this weekend at church, I had a good time at church this weekend. We had praise dancing, and those our little teenagers, they really did. They did a good job. I love to see them praise dance. They really did a good job. Can't remember actually the song that they did it on, but they was really good. Just for them to be so young and just doing God's work and just giving him praise and honoring him is such a blessing, such amazing for them to be so young and doing it. So that was really good, exciting at church. And we had a great message. You want to have anything? How y'all weekend was? Let me check the chat. Miss Chandler said that was wonderful. Miss Nene, such a blessing. Miss Felicia said such a blessing, Nene. Good morning. Okay. Let me see. I don't think Miss Sabrina's in the room, but let me just check and see. Give us some more time.
I'm here, Latoya. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready when you are. So if there are
Okay.
no more shares about the weekend or just like chats, yeah, I'd be ready to jump in.
Okay. I don't think no one else put anything else in the chat. Don't know if anyone else had anything to say about their weekend. So I guess we can go ahead and get started, Miss Serena.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Latoya. You do an awesome job of like getting us started and really cheering us up with some words of encouragement. And I love when everybody shares. It's sometimes so simple to kind of just say, hey, how was your weekend? Right? It seems like such a sometimes surface level question, but actually, if we really do take the time to kind of think, how was my weekend? Well, how am I really doing? And like really ponder about it, like it's such a beautiful thing to share because it's a joy that comes up always. So it's just a great reminder. And so thank you so much for always getting us started here. I really appreciate it. Yes, I will quickly want to start just with a prayer and really set us up powerfully this morning because it's Monday morning. We have a new week coming up, and I do hope that everybody feels empowered right now, and maybe not because you just woke up and you're like, it's early, that we're going to do that after the call and kind of can say, you know what, doesn't matter. Like I went here, I showed up, and let's just start and have a powerful week. So, good morning, Lord. Thank you so much for this time. Thank you for this Monday morning for these ladies. Thank you for all that's been shared, the joy, the gratitude, and just the amazement of you, God, and how you're working our lives. Just use this time to speak to us, to let our hearts be open, and especially our mind as well, God, to just hear you, to recognize you, to know when the Holy Spirit is pondering at our hearts and knocking at the door, trying to tell us something. Lord, use me as a humble vessel here just to bring the messages that ladies need to hear, and that we can just move on powerfully after this call, just knowing that you got us, that you are with us every step of the way. Ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I just love to start with a prayer. So that always sets me up as well, just to know that God is with us here. So yes, we're talking about chapter 10. And one thing that I wanted to share as an intention with y'all is like before, often like, Marilyn, when she assigned me with this task of like doing these chapters, I was just like, I just don't want to go and do it. Like, because from Marilyn and my relationship and how we've worked together, I was just like, how can I really kind of be of value to these ladies? Like, how should I do this even? Like summarizing those chapters, and like, how can I really be a blessing in this role, that in the assignment that she has me on, in this relationship that we have with this book study. And so one thing that I've always done and trying to do is like, really setting intentions before coming into those spaces, and really not just talking it out, but just really kind of seeing and discerning what is something that really could be of value, and in which world are we in right now that is crazy, that we all can probably relate to these things, and really just give it more of a thought. And sometimes when we come into new spaces with new relationships, it's also how are their dynamics, because today in chapter 10, it's a lot about dynamics of relationships and changing and the flexibility. And so that was something that the Holy Spirit asked me to share, really to talk about, to be more sensitive to just certain situations, and especially assignments that people give you, and then to kind of see how you're like playing a role in that. And that's a lot what this chapter is about today. And I really want to dive right in with that, because we all know, and chapter 10 is actually, just to have the title, if somebody's listening, is like, I don't know what chapter 10 is about. It's about changing places, the law of constructive transition. And it was really interesting to me. And I have to admit, whenever I read that chapter first, I just was like, is this about moving places? Like you're moving from one place to another, right? Because that's sometimes like changing places, just like you physically changing from one side to another. But like actually when he was talking about that, it's actually about just assignments that God has you on, and those changing places, like, and what stories he has been using in the books. I'm so excited to share that with you, because it's going so deep. And I've never really entered into that deepness of relationships that actually the Bible really reveals here. But let's start with the story of the pastor. We all know he has a ministry, right? Where he was just going with his wife and like had to step out and like build this church. And one thing that he was sharing with this particular verse is that he says there are moments in life when your best relationships can become your biggest problems. So just have that in mind as we're going and reading this church, because when they wanted to plant the church in a new place, everyone was so supportive of them. They had prayer, they had support, they had people just kind of cheering on them, right? Like when you just like in a new season and you have people that cheer on you and know like, hey, you got to do this, like you're good, like you're meant for this, God has really put you in this place to do this assignment, and you just have all your people. But then there's that one particular person where you've always looked up to, that if you've always admired, that you really respect because of how they are with God, really their values and what they stand for. For example, for me, like knowing Miss Marilyn for a while, like Miss Marilyn for me would be a person that I really look up to, and really would be, asking for support or for just feedback, like would be very valuable to me. So, and sometimes if we have people on a pedestal, for example, because of just their role and what they've done in our lives, then sometimes it's hard if they say, no, you can't do it. Or no, I don't think that's, for you. Or I think that's a too big of assignment for God. Like, I don't want you to get burdened with this. This might be too early. This, not the right time. You may not have the right resources, right? If people try to kind of talk you out of something. And I don't know if you already have a particular situation in your life right now where you're trying to do something and you've had people kind of cheering on you and saying, yes, go do that, new coaching, or try to, just family dynamics, whatever situation you may have going on. But if you had people that have prayed for you, that have cheered you on, they're just like totally, because they just know you can do it because of your nature. But then you have somebody that says, maybe think about it again. And, oh, no, I don't think it's the right time yet. Just think about those people and the relationship first and foremost you have with them and where they're at in your place right now. Do you value them like really, really high, or are they kind of like just same level? And how close are they to you? What have their feedbacks meant to you in the past? Very, very important to discern, because it's really important what he's saying, because his pastor, it's called Pastor Sanders, he was against it by all means, literally, like with everything that he was, with all his belief, he was against that, church, planting that church. But there's a point in life, where you just don't know, what do I do now? Like, God, I mean, you obviously have told me that I'm supposed to do this, but I have this person that I really value so much, and I know he's close to you as well. What do I do here? Like, I mean, I know that you've set this all up, but still, because humans sometimes have such a big part of in our lives that we can actually let them really just talk into what actually God has just, prepared us for, put us for, and just planted us in. And that's sometimes where it really gets difficult, and where we have to see, hey, might be a sign that they need to be, changing in place, a transition. And that's what he says. Like, sometimes to move forward with God, you must change the way you relate to certain people in life. And that's kind of basically the story. He comes back to it later, but yeah, that can really ruin everything if you're in that space. And so, even if your spouse, sometimes it's just our spouses, right? Like, you plan to do this, maybe new, program, new coaching, and he's like, we don't have the money for it. Like, we don't have the resources for it. What about the kids? What about, like grocery store shopping? Like, if your time is going to be more towards something, but your spouse maybe say, hey, I'm not sure if we're ready yet. I'm not sure if we can do this as a family dynamic to go on and move forward. For example, in my situation, like, trying to build something new on the side besides being a mom and having household, etc. We also had to have conversations about changing places as a couple in order for us to go on this mission that God has us on. So, but I'll come back to that later. So the next chapter is talking about don't exhale too soon. And what does that mean? Because sometimes we find new relationships in our life that are really, really valuable. We know the people are of God, and we're just so excited that, they're in our lives. And, we try to kind of cooperate. I remember Felicia talking in our last call, that she had a lady that was with her and kind of assigned to her, and where they did the job together. And, but it was just for a certain period of time. But people that come in our lives that are great relationships that we perceive, they may be great, but they may need to be redefined in positive ways or constructively transitioned, which means, like, how do I perceive them? Like, what role do they play in my life? Is it supposed to be permanently, or maybe just temporary, right? Like, why did God assign this person in my life right now? Why am I getting to know this person right now? And how can it, serve me? And what he means with like constructively transitioned is a change in place or significance a person holds in your life. So, right, like, I just kind of, for myself, when I read this, I was like, okay, I have a scale from 1 to 10. And that's whenever I meet a new person, and I know this person is maybe supposed to help me on the journey of like God's mission for me, I can say, like, how important shall I really put this person on a scale from 1 to 10, and let God speak to you in that moment. Maybe you've put that person too high, like at a 10, because like you just admire their just God-given values and character and like, gifts. Probably that person brings something in the place that you don't have, like a quality that helps you to shift forward. And that's why you see that person like so valuable and like, oh my gosh, we had it, right? Like, I need that Aaron in my life, because Moses was not confident enough. And so Moses placed Aaron actually like very, very high in that moment. But was he supposed to put him that high? What do you think? Right? It was just, it was not where he was supposed to be. So actually there had to be a transition prior, but it was not happening. And that's why the chaos came in. And that's what he's meaning. So there's an example that he's saying in the book, says, from a best friend to maybe just a broader context of friendship, right? If that person really had such a grip on your life, or like from a mentor to a colleague or peer, right? Just to kind of work alongside each other instead of like, seeing even the person as a mentor, just bring it back down a little bit and say, you know what, he's like me, but we can work still together. Does that make sense? really, really important to know. And so it doesn't mean to end the relationship. That's also a part that he's really, really, stressing on, because sometimes we're just like black and white. Like we just kind of say, you know what? Okay, it's not working anymore as it was before. Okay, I end this relationship right now. No. Don't do that. Don't be too fast, but just ask, okay, God, again, where do I need to put this person? And get back with with him to just ask him for discernment. Hey, where do I need to put this person? Like a new place, a new significance in my life. And that's really, really important. So he's meaning maybe just change the dynamics with this person. Okay, so that's kind of the point that we're really getting to here in this book. And I hope you can kind of grasp the thought in the red line here. But he also says, be confident and be all in, but just be open-hearted where God wants to lead you and what that means.
I think she might have froze up her computer. Yeah, so let me see if she come back on. Yeah. I'm really liking this. Miss Sabrina, she's breaking it down.
Yes, ma'am, she is. I think she froze, but so far it's been really great. Has me thinking about a couple of people that maybe, I just need to put them in a different position, because actually there's one of them I've already cut off because she just said something that made me say, wait a minute, well, maybe I just need to take them from where I have them in my mind and put them, ask God, go back and ask God about that, where they need to be.
Yeah, so when she said that right there, it just kind of made my wheels start turning. It kind of made me think about what Miss Merlin been saying all along. Sometimes you got to put people in fourth chair.
Right.
Fourth,
Take
chair,
matter
wherever.
first.
Yeah.
So
You're
absolutely right.
Yeah, so she is really it's like I say, the spirit is always in this room, boy.
Man, yes, ma'am, it is. I was enjoying that. I pray she gets back in soon.
I
So she
know.
can finish that up.
All right. Can y'all hear me? I think I just kind of popped out.
Yeah, okay.
The internet just kind of stopped for a while. I don't know. But yeah, perfect. Okay, so you can hear me. Yes, so that was really, really powerful for me as well, because it doesn't mean, and that was also something, just because you feel like things are changing, sometimes it makes us uncomfortable, right? We're just like, ooh, I don't know if I can be with that person then, if the person is not supposed to be close to me, right? Like, shall I just completely maybe just, get away from this person more, or kind of, just feel more insecure around this person because it's, I don't know how to communicate that transition and that dynamic, right? Because there's one thing, if God tells you, hey, there needs to be a change, but how do you communicate it to this person without, feeling kind of just icky about it, but just to have an open heart, as he was saying, when there's a transition, and to still be able to enjoy it. Because, even though there's just a transition in place, God still wants you to enjoy the relationships that you have. It's just on a different level, in a different dynamic. And that's really, really important, because we often try, again, black and white, just to say, okay, if there's a change, like, I just want to leave it and move on, because it's too uncomfortable to kind of change and the whole dynamics of changing that relationship, if that makes sense. So really, really pay attention to that factor, because again, there will be an uncomfortableness around that. If God is changing a significant person and downgrading. Mostly it's downgrading, right? Sometimes it's like God is asking you to upgrade a person because you're like, oh, that person has something, like you need that person in your life. So grab a hold of them and like take all their qualities and really just embrace it and soak all the time in that you get. And you're like, hey, that's exciting. But if you have to downgrade somebody, that's more so like, because you don't want to make them feel less significant, right? You just don't want to feel them like, make them feel that they're just not such an important role maybe, and don't want to hurt them, but leave that part up to God, and just kind of really stay in the spirit of communicating it. Very, very important, because that's where conflict otherwise can rise, right? Especially if that person doesn't know how to take it. So next chapter is something needs to change. And this is really exciting, ladies and gentlemen, because like he's sharing about a story of Peter and Jesus in the really important moment of scripture. And I just didn't know how to, I never really read about it. But if you have a clear, destiny and someone is in the way, that's kind of when something really needs to change. So if you right now know that God has a destiny for you, but there are certain dynamics and people that have kind of been standing in the way, like something definitely needs to change. And the author is really making this clear by the situation, because what the author is saying from the book, and I'm just reading a little bit here, I'm talking about reaching a point when you are not in agreement with people, where you are firmly established in a clear understanding of God's will for your life, and someone with whom you have walked very closely for a long time cannot see it and will not support you in it. Right? Like where it's not just like, hey, you disagree with on a certain point, but where it's like really disagreement about your path, right? Like just about what you are about to do, and somebody's totally against it. And that's really, really, really important to understand. And he's also saying there's a difference between, when it comes to constructive transition, that there's just a casual shift versus like deliberate choice that must be made for the sake of furthering God's plan for your life. And I'll just repeat that again, because it's really important to know that if it comes to constructive transition in relationships, like there's a casual shift versus deliberate choice that must be made for the sake of furthering God's plan for your life. And so it's a choice that God, again, leaves in our hands, right? God says, here's my plan for you, and here's a choice that you have to follow it. But before you can follow it, there needs to be a change in this transition in this particular relationship. And I'm just kind of boldly, I just, share these thoughts real quick. And then I really want to open up the lines to kind of maybe there's something where you feel like there's a person that, has been kind of standing in the way, and where it's like maybe you sharing, hey, how can I communicate that? Because maybe we can already like talk about it and really be able to kind of help and guide in this situation. So while I'm kind of sharing these thoughts, maybe go ahead and maybe think about if there's a person that you feel like, I don't know if she's in the right place, and if I have to move, the relationship with that person. And then we can see if we can help, because what he was sharing in the book is carefully and compassionately with the goal of maintaining a great relationship with new and different roles for both people. That's kind of the goal. Okay, so when we're reading this chapter, know what constructive transition is. If you can take that home with you today, just to know what constructive transition means and what the goal is, then you already really take a lot out of today, because these are the really main thoughts that the author's really giving with us here. And to sum this part up, he says in the book, sometimes God tests your love and trust for him by allowing someone important to you to withhold support or encouragement, or to disagree completely with what you believe he's leading you to do. Okay, who knows? That's definitely God, because yes, God can trust us sometimes. He puts us in places where he gives us the uncertainty of the world, but where we have to just only lead in to find that certainty, right? That we are right. But that was so when I read this, it was like, okay, yes, it's so true. Sometimes God really puts us in places where he just wants us to lean completely on him and trust in him. And he also says we would be wise to value, honor, and make the most of great relationships without relying on them or relaxing in them to the point that we allow them to derail us from God's purposes and plans for our lives. All right. I want to open up, be able to open up the line. So if you have a person that, you feel like you just don't know if there needs to be a shift, feel free to open up so we can talk about it. Or if you just kind of want to share just the thoughts from what we just heard with like something needs to change and God's purpose, and maybe just summarize what we've heard so far in your own words and maybe relating to a situation in your life, I'd love for y'all to share. So I'll give us some time here just to respond.
Good morning, Miss Sabrina.
Yes.
I
Good morning.
was- Good morning. It wasn't a person. It's not a person, but I can honestly say, like when I was going through school with for RN and stuff like that, I was single and stuff, and so I was the breadwinner for my home and for everything. And I can honestly say, I had to step out on faith with that, and to do it because I couldn't depend on nobody else. So, I had to depend on God for that. And that was something that I just really had to lean on him to bring me through that, because I had to go part-time. And then I don't even think I was part-time because the school was so demanding with different things that I had to do, for class and clinicals and everything. So I don't even think I really was considered part-time. I don't even know what my status was, because I was hardly there. But when I tell you God made a way, I swear, I promise you, I've tried to, I did before. I don't really do it now because I know it was just all him, with his provision. But I've tried to put the math to the bills and the stuff that came up against me, and I couldn't do it. It didn't make sense. All I can say is God just came on in with his provision, and he made a way all the way through when I was going through school, all the way through when I walked that stage. And I said, I give him all the praise and all the glory, because it was totally him. So people ask me today, how did you do it? Because they know I was by myself, and you know how demanding nursing school is. I mean, you have to jump when they say jump and stuff like that. And they ask me how you do it. All I can give them is the answer is God did it, through God, because I mean, it wasn't. I can't make sense of it. I mean, a human can't make sense of it. All I know is He made a way, and it was done. And thank God I'm done with it. And passed boards, and I had did all that and stuff. But I can honestly say God really brought me through that, because that was a difficult time.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, especially if we're under pressure, if we know there's just that assignment of just passing that exam, and just like, because of the importance that it plays like in your life afterwards, right? Just for your career, for being able to provide. And, there's so much significance to that, just a particular assignment, right? Like that's also sometimes important to even not in relationships, but also shift how significant am I really seeing the exam? And, where do I put it in terms of just getting myself stressed out with it, right? Like sometimes we even need to put those things in order and say, what if I really fail? Like, and kind of then place it maybe in a new dynamic, a new role, even with having that. But how would, like a question I want to ask, like, how was your family during this process with you in terms of supporting you, or were they rather like questioning you for doing this? And did God place like other ladies or men in your life to go through that school? Because I think that's where it comes interesting with this chapter.
No, well, actually, I was going through a major breakup at that point. So that was the weight of everything on me. Plus, I'm figuring ready to start this school, and it was so demanding, and stuff like that. So that was, that part right there within itself. So I really had to just lean on God and say, okay, God, I don't even know what to do at this point. That's why I say that scripture, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, that was, I just had to just lean and trust on him. But my family, they was there for me, my dad and my sister and them, they was supportive, doing what they can. I missed out on a lot of things, because I had to, study or, whatever, but they was there, they was calling, or, they were just helping me, doing things or whatever. And then my friend Regina, she was there, and, I had other friends that was there, but really Regina, she was there. As I'm going through that, because your emotions are all over the place. 1 minute I'm crying, 1 minute I'm happy 1 minute, and don't even know why I'm crying 1 minute, and then I'm thinking like, what have I put myself through? And then I just the enemy just was on me, just kind of trying to get me to just to give up or just like, you can't do this. I went through clinicals and got sick through clinicals, had passed out doing at clinicals and had all that going on. I mean, I just had a lot coming at me. I mean, it was like, I don't even know all that because I went through LVN and I have any kind of issues like that, whatever. But with this particular season I went through, I mean, everything that the enemy could bring to me, he brought it through with my job, I mean, everything, even when I got finished, they was talking about, now I was working there already. I was already got into the program when we moved to our new location, but then they come throwing in trying to say, well, they didn't want to hire any more RNs. And so we had that going on. So I didn't know if I really was gonna have a job after I got done. So I mean, everything that I think of the enemy could bring in to try to get me off track and everything, he did. When I say he did, he did. And so I just had to, like I said, constantly focus on God and keep him, because he brought me through it. He brought me through it. And like I said, friends and family, and they was there. And like I said, and it was just, I went through a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah, I so much understand. And Denisha also said, Lord, I can't relate so much at the moment. Probably she's going through that season too. And one thing that I hear out from what you're sharing is that, and I think the author doesn't really talk about that because he's talking about the relationships we have on earth, but it's also sometimes, where do we put God on this scale, like from 1 to 10, like of significance of his role in our life and of the dynamics we have with the Lord, right? Because I always remember Marilyn say, like, you need this in order to do this. And right. And in that moment, you had to shift and say, God, like, you are here, like, you are my Jehovah God, you are my father, like, I need to cling on you. And you're like, you have that high importance right now, and not all the things the enemy's trying to do and distract me with, right? And just to put him in that place where he belongs. And that's often what we have to do with God. Like, God, I need to put you back to place, like, get on our knees, or just like, just really having that faith and standing firm in those moments when especially there's so much turmoil, and relationships can really break us. I feel like in my own life, there can be like situations that happen that try to shake you, but often it's those relationships and the people around us that are closest to us that really shake us, that we don't think about because we're often so distracted just by all the things that happen in our lives, that the relationships and how they affect us in that moment are totally out of our sight, right? We totally forget about those. And that's important too. And especially when you have a season right now, like Denisha, I don't know if you want to share after this, feel free to raise your hand. But like, if you are in those seasons where there's so much turmoil, just be still and as well say, God, okay, this situation is going on, but what relationships do I have that are supportive for me right now? And lean onto those people in that moment. And then when you have people where, oh, wow, there's so much turmoil, like you had a breakup. So, right, like for that person, I don't know, like, how is that for you in that moment when you had that person? Did you put him in a different place? Or was that like, because like he was up here and you valued him so much? Did you see a transition in his importance and place in your life that you could put him in a different place so that you could move on? I would love to just quickly talk about that and then move on. But
yeah, I did. Because it was a serious relationship. We was, talking about marriage and everything, so I mean, yeah. And so once that happened, they kind of like threw me for a loop because it was so unexpected.
yeah.
And then, like I said, so I had to do a whole shift with him, saying, as I was going through that. So I had to kind of put him in tent chair somewhere, and, but as I was going through that, then I had to prepare to go through this and stuff. So I had to, prioritize and, think, to myself, think about, okay, what I want and what I need to do, and, and to not ever be in that position ever again, saying like that. And,
Yeah.
and I had to just focus, get right with God, get in alignment with him, because it was all him.
Yeah.
Even
And in that moment,
even brought me through that relationship, I had to depend on him with that, because that was major.
Okay, so there had to be shifts that you had to take and, change dynamics and role frame. And sometimes I think in those moments, especially if it's so severe with your partner, I guess we just want to end the relationship and we just want to run away from it, right? But maybe it's like where you can just say, you know what, I don't have to end it, but I definitely need some space here first and foremost to work through some things. And then I can put this, this person that just broke up with me in a different place, where you may still be friends down the road, but sometimes it's like, okay, I need to end this, right? And there's also discernment needed. But very
Yeah.
very great
So
share. Thank you, Latoya.
yeah, we ended it, now, we cool, we see each other, we speak, but for us, like, relationship wise, it wouldn't be that again,
Yeah.
and that was just a season that was over with. I
Yeah.
feel like if that was meant to be, he would have been there. I mean, he left at the most time where I would need him, to show up, what I'm saying, and so, that didn't happen, but, if things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they do. Life happens all the time. Appreciate you sharing. Thank you. Denisha, do you want to share with how you can relate to this? Sometimes also good to just kind of be able to share and just get some clarity of it while sharing. But if not, that's absolutely fine if you're not in a place to share. Just see if I can see if you speak up. Oops. Okay, Felicia. Yeah, Felicia.
Oh, hi. So I'm sorry.
Oh, there we
Yes, I
go.
was just saying I can relate in so many ways, especially going through school. God is really showing me the people that's close to me, how things change, how they can turn. So I'm having to depend on God more, and it's just a real eye opener, and it's hurting, but I'm learning to put people in their proper place. But yeah, I can relate so much.
Do you feel like with the people that, where you feel like there needs to be so much change, is there because there's so much hurt from each and every one of those persons that you kind of felt like you had them on a significant role and thought they would support you, had some expectations of their behavior, and then you just found out it's completely not what you thought of? Or
Yes,
how would you describe it?
yes, my expectations for them were very high.
Mm.
Thinking that they would support the way I thought they should.
Mm.
And it didn't turn out that way. So it's amazing how God will place people that you don't even know to support you more than the people that are close to you.
Mm. And that's so hard sometimes with family and like really people that, yeah, you do believe because they're family, like, they should be like just cheering on you and like, completely. I remember a story really of myself, like when I started back then in Germany still with just, trying to, build my own just business. I had no idea. I just really was just like, totally coming from work. So, but I wanted to just endeavor the entrepreneurial life. And I remember, for example, conversations with my sister where she just was not supportive at all. And she was back then my person that I was looking up to, like, and she just kind of, was just like, didn't believe in it. Like, you should do this. And so was not really supportive. And, I can't really take it back from her, but like, it's just in that moment, it was crushing to me. And I remember we were driving to an event, learning about just this entrepreneurial journey. And I was crying and crying and crying because it devastated me so much, because I thought, like, it's your family, like it's my sister, like I look up to her, like she should support me. Why? Right? Because we sometimes don't understand, and it really crushes us in that moment. And it's okay, I guess, to feel that way, because that way always, especially with family and close relations, God teaches us, hey, here I am, like put me back, like you should rely on me, like I am here for you, with you every step of the way. I'm your background and I go before you, but pay attention of where you put the people, especially the people close to you, when it comes to my assignment, right? I have for you and the past that I have for you. And sometimes it's like getting people not too close to that, but kind of have them in a certain space where there's a little distance, where they're not getting too close to, to your emotions with that. There was one other thought that I had about you sharing that, Denisha, but let me see.
Yes, I agree. I agree 1,000%. But like Toya said, this has been one of the most hardest seasons I have went through, being in are in school full time, and then I have a 5-year-old and then taking care of my mom. So this has been a very, very, very hard season.
Yeah, there's just a lot of turmoil, craziness. Like I've heard that a lot just in the past, like where people just texted me literally like, Sabrina, life is crazy right now. And where again, like where I got really is asking us, hey, like, what we talking about, this declutter, especially your relationships, right? That you feel like they have such an effect on you. Just again, like think about it, reflect, and just see where they're at, because what you were saying is expectations. That was something that I wanted to get back to. What expectations do we have from the people, especially that are closest to us, and their behavior? And to really pay attention to that, because sometimes, like especially in a relationship, with your spouse, with your kids, there's so much expectations that we don't know that we have on hold for this person, that we don't know how they can crush us in that moment, and are totally like feeling exposed in that moment when there may not be supportive, right? Like expectations is a huge factor here as well. All right, any further shares on that? Otherwise I would definitely move forward, but thank you, Denisha, for sharing. And like we can set a prayer for you at the end, and especially if somebody else is saying, hey, I have a similar situation, just write it in the chat, and we're just going to pray for that particular season that we're in, or in that hard season, to kind of find that strength and navigation through it. So okay, everybody good?
I wanted to make a comment, Ms. Sabrina, on.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yes, you said I can, so perfect. Cheers.
Yes. And so one of the things, even as I'm listening to the conversation, is that we have to understand that we are also having to put ourselves in the right position, with what we are doing, and with how we see, and with how we are positioning people. And that with Jesus and Peter, Jesus knew his purpose, and he knew what he needed to do. So he immediately saw Peter out of line and had to deal with that out of alignment. So we, being spirit-led, have to monitor and manage ourselves. And we can do things out of season. If I have a huge load in 3 areas, and my cup is full, for me to add another area, something gonna break. Something's not gonna work. So we have to manage where we want to pour out our virtue. It's seasons where you can't have certain people or certain duties, or it just won't work because it's too much. It's gonna overflow. And so sometimes when we go, so say for instance, we're on course and we're doing what we're supposed to do, and we add something, there's a way that God will sovereignly come in and bump something out, because first, it probably never should have been there in the first place, or it may be out of season, or we mismanaged and added. So yeah, we have to make sure that, and I love how he talked about constructively transition. So you can constructively come out of something that you went into. And so I had a chance to listen to this chapter last night, and I was like, whoa, it was so good. And TD Jake said yesterday on the broadcast that a blessing out of season is a curse. And that's one of my prayers this year. God, help me to produce in season. We have promises. God has promises for us, but if it's not supposed to come this year, if it's not supposed to come this early, I don't want it. I won't be able to handle it. It will handle me, and I can actually lose it. So we have to make sure, whether it's marriage, whether that's going to school, whether that's it, we just can't do stuff out of season, And I had a situation, and I'm going to release you, where I have a mentor in a certain area on the global side. And I was led by the Lord to come in to work with this mentor, right? But this mentor wanted to put me everywhere. And at first, out of the joy of knowing, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is in tune, this is in alignment, I started to submit to that. And then it became too much quickly. And I was like, wait,
wait a minute. So I had to slow down, let God take the lead from where I was, because he was already leading me in, but I had to say, God, I need you to get back. I need to be back in alignment. Where do you want me? Because out of love and out of having a servant's heart, then I would just be willing to do. Okay, go here, go ahead. But I couldn't do what I needed to do. And it was interrupting my life. My work life, my personal, it was interrupting. And so God began to show me, he said, where did I connect you within the ministry? And the light bulb went off. I said, oh. And God was like, that's all I said. That's all I was doing. So then what I did was, when it came to the opportunity for me to share my availability, because we would have those meetings, I was able to pinpoint and say, I'm available here and I'm available there. And everything else was a no. It was a boundary, and the peace of God came back. And because when we get spread out too thin, or let people send you all over the place, you also get in the way of who God wants to put in place. And so I'm a firm believer that we never should let ourselves be the one who's the hero in anything, because then who is God wanting to put in that place to raise up, to train up, to give them opportunity, to anoint them? Because I'm in the way, So that's where we have to trust God for the people that we're working with. And that means bosses, supervisors. When you real gifted and you can do a whole lot of everything, they'll try to put you all over the place. But then when you're starting to be on blood pressure medications, and your kids don't see you, something's too much. Some gotta go. And so, amen.
Yeah, so powerful, Felicia. Thank you for sharing. And there are notes that I like to take notes really from y'all's conversation, because in every story there's such a good point. And Marilyn, I see you're also wanting to share. Let me just quickly get those 3 points down, because one thing that you said is slow down, right? Whenever you feel like there's something out of place, slow down, take distance to be able to kind of discern, right? And see, where did we even meet initially and in first place? Why probably did, how did God connect us, on which level, right? And then just to reorganize with him, with that person, and kind of to see, hey, where do dynamics need to change? So I really love that. Thank you for sharing. Ms. Marilyn, go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. No, I was just joining in.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, that's good too. Glad you're here. But yeah, feel free to open your mics anytime, ladies, because it's really important to bring those stories from our everyday lives in, because that makes it more sense. But I really want to ask Fisher, was I was sharing with Peter and Jesus, really get in the story, because the story says Peter takes a back seat. And, he's saying, the author's saying, throughout Jesus' earthly ministry, he had 12 disciples, right? And from those 12 disciples, Peter, James, and John were the closest to him. And then from those three, actually, Peter was the most prominent and closest to him. And in Matthew 16:15, it says, when Jesus asked the very important questions, who do you say I am? Peter is the only one of the 12 who actually knows. He answers correctly, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. So this kind of proves the relationship that Peter really knew who Jesus was. And then it goes on to say, Jesus bestows tremendous blessing, privilege, and authority on Peter. But just a few verses later, the entire dynamic of their relationship changes as Jesus attempts to prepare his disciples for his immediate future, including his suffering and death. Peter begins to rebuke and challenge him, basically saying, no, I'm not going to let that happen. Basically, all what we've been talking about this morning, this is a situation where Peter's trying to stand in the way of Jesus' purpose, because he doesn't see how big Jesus' purpose in that moment is. Do we all agree? It's the most biblical moment ever in history, and Peter is the closest to him, but he's just no, because I don't want that for you. I don't want you to get hurt, right? I don't just want, because he's not actually seeing and first getting with God. Okay, God, what is maybe your purpose for Jesus here, right? Because he's just thinking on that vertical level, and it's just so important. So let's see, he's asking a question. Matthew 16:23 says, Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of man." Very, very important, right? What are our thoughts about? Like, what do we think? These negative words are almost as strong as the positive words Jesus has just spoken to Peter in Matthew 16:17-19. So we have to wonder what happened. And I want to ask that question to you ladies now. How could Jesus change his tone toward Peter so dramatically and so quickly? Why did he feel he had to do so? Very, very profound question. And maybe someone wants to share about that, but how could Jesus change his tone toward Peter so dramatically and so quickly? Like, these are very two important things, right? Sometimes we think, oh, it has to develop as a season, the transition, the dynamic, but sometimes, as we can see here, the dynamic has to change in an instant, like right now, because God wants to do something in you right now, and that person is holding you off right now. So we need that shift. Yeah, why did he feel he had to do so, right? It's very, very important to just think about that. Let's see if somebody wants to share or have some thoughts to it. Otherwise, I'll move forward and kind of course, reveal it. Marie or Felicia?
Yeah.
I see y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember when it was time for me to move to Florida, and the Lord had given me a dream and shared with me not to tell anyone. And he showed me why in the dream. He said, he was showing me that if I told anyone, I would have extra warfare and people trying to persuade me not to, people saying why, questioning, all that kind of stuff. So just so I would have opened the door to being hindered, and it would be unnecessary. So I obeyed. And the hard part was my parents. The hard part was my parents. And the Lord was showing me even specifically and more specifically, don't tell them. And so, you know, he had to change his voice, because when you are coming into a destination that God has, we have to remember that our days were already written. So before any one of them came to be. So when God is saying, hey, in this season, in this portion of your life, I'm going to do this, by any means necessary, we must make sure that we're in that position, in that place, and doing that, being found in God's will, right? And so I think he also was setting the record straight. Like, he was letting the spirit realm know, I'm going to my destination. There's nothing anybody can do to stop it. Like, it was it was a bold declaration and a command that to Satan, you're not going to stop me. Like, there's no way, you're defeated, you're out of there. And so I believe that's an example to us, that we sometimes have to speak to a thing and to tell it where to get, and to tell it its place, because he was talking about constructive transition, but there's some instances where that transition involves, us standing up and, standing up and really putting down our foot. And he let us know that as an example. So you have to do the same thing, especially when it comes to your cross place. There's different levels of destiny. So when I'm in a place where there's no other option, if I don't go this way, then I'm defeating, everything that God has built up in me previous. This is a place there's no contenders, and so, yeah.
Yeah, powerful, because one thing that I hear from this as a wisdom note here is that sometimes before God has put a destiny in us, like that dream, he knew, he wanted to go to a different place, but he told you not to tell anyone, because God knows probably how the people, especially closest to you, like family that you want to talk, sometimes want to share with them, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is the dream I had. And God knows that they're going to say, oh, what? Like, really? Right? So he often says, don't tell anyone. This is between you and me, and just go and do, right? Because he knows the people that then can be in place can actually be that person that talks you out of it. or that kind of tries to discourage you in that, right? So sometimes even before we try to have that relationship in terms of going to our destiny, God tells us, hey, you know, just first of all, it's just between you and me, and let's go and get that business done, that kingdom business. So really good. Marie, you also wanted to share. If you're able to
Yes,
share.
ma'am. I agree a lot with what Miss Felicia said. What I was looking at was the relationship with Jesus and the Father. We've been talking about relationship, and he has that vertical relationship. He has that connection with the Father. What shows me is that I must always keep my connection with the Father first and foremost. And then also, he did not speak to Peter. He was speaking to the spirit behind Peter, which is a lot of times the enemy, I'm sorry, a lot of times the enemy uses, and most all the time, the enemy uses those people that are close to you so that he can derail you. And so the way he had to stop that was, and I totally agree with Ms. Felicia, he had to speak to the spirit behind Peter. It was not necessarily Peter, it was the spirit behind, because God uses us and devil tries to use us also. So we have to make sure that we have that connection with him. And when he said it, he said it dramatically, but Peter knew that he was talking to what was going on with Peter. When we talk to other people and we correct them dramatically, but with love. Because Jesus never just said, get on out of here, go away. No, he said, get ye behind me, Satan. He did not say, get ye behind me, Peter. So when I look at that, I understand that a lot of times if we don't have the right connection, the right vertical connection, we will never be able to deliver the right horizontal connection. So that's what I got out of that.
So good. Ladies, you're awesome. Like literally, I'm like, can y'all just kind of go on and teach this? Like, this is amazing. I'm really, really loving what you're sharing, because it's important. Like Kitamba was also just sharing, and let me try to go back up here in the chat, because I hope so that I can go up. Oh yeah, it lets me. Okay. Because like, it's the spirit, right? Like often we think it's just the person itself, but it's the spirit. And that's like a major point to understand how to deal with that, right? Not to come in like judging mode, but to come out of love, what Jesus is doing. Contemporary sharing, we must learn to discern the spirit in which the person's speaking to us and standing in. Peter went from the spirit of love to the spirit of pride. So Jesus had to rebuke the pride in him. Like, who are you to say you'll stop what God has ordained, right? Yes, very, very good point, Katemra. Thank you for sharing. And it's so true, because yes, we just sometimes don't know, especially if that person's close to us, right? So Donisha, I was just thinking of your situation, you know, maybe you're on that track right now where God has you, but like, it's for you to kind of really think what, you know, people are there, and is it like just their spirit? And, you know, to maybe discern that, to know how to move forward, right? And to not take it personally, or kind of just to hold, you know, grudge against that, but to kind of just know, okay, let me focus back on where I need to go. And that's what Jesus is doing in that moment as well. Any other thoughts, like in shares on this? I'll just look at the chat right now. There. Felicia is saying, yeah, yes, come on, Auntie. Yes, ma'am, Katemra. Keep those spiritual eyes open. Yes. And when it came close to leaving family, figured it out that I was going, and God had provided a why for my family, which was my son was needing to go to school and have never lived on his own. But God had reasons beyond my son, right? Yep. So, and they don't see that part, right? That's what the book is also saying. They don't see what God has for you. They don't see what you see. They don't know the work you've already put on this path, right? That might be really of importance here as well. All right, deep breath. That was good. Really good. Any other shares? Otherwise, let's definitely continue with that story, because it's so powerful. Let's see. One new message. I'm trying to open it up. Denisha, this is scene of revealing. Yeah, God is doing this. Denisha, stay focused. And for example, right here, connection, like Latoya, if you've been walking through this, you know, coming alongside Denisha, and like, you know, maybe just saying, hey, I've went through this. Here is something that have helped me, and just kind of shepherd her in that. is the beauty of this community, because we find out who's already maybe walked what we've been walking through, right? And really sharing that. So it's also saying turning away from, oh, Katembra, go ahead.
Good
Share,
morning.
please. Good morning.
Yes, I was just going to add what I have learned on this journey when walking and doing something or stepping out on faith, when you know God has spoken a word to you, but he hasn't spoken that to anybody else, because it's not necessarily sometimes that they're doing what they feel is wrong, because it could be a parent, it could be a family member, it could be somebody that truly loves you and thinks you're making a huge mistake, but only you know what God has said. And so when you get to the end of that thing and God has done what he said he's going to do, you have to look and see that God, that was not the devil's doing. It was God pulling those people out of position so that when he got to the other side of it, no one would receive his glory but him. So you can't say, my mama helped me do this. My sisters and my brothers helped me do this. My boyfriend helped me do this. Because at the end of that thing, it's going, all you can say is, I don't know how it happened. All I know is God did it. All I know is God's grace. All I know, it was his mercy. All I know is he kept me all the way. And that is sometimes in our humanity and in our emotions, it hurts, because you would think like, why didn't you support me? I would think that you would want me to do something different. I would think that you would have been my biggest cheerleader, but that's not what God wanted. God wanted to make sure we didn't have any idols in place when we're walking through his purpose and his calling, so that he would be the one to get the glory. And that's all I have to share. Thank you.
So sweet. Thank you. That's what I have to share. That's so awesome, Katembra. And yes, it's kind of trying to, as you were sharing, kind of just the love and the pride, right? Are you coming out of love, the mode of love, or are you saying things just out of pride, right? And knowing that there's a difference in that. Yeah, voice saying, bye ladies, my cup was always full when I'm leaving this room. Be blessed. Great word. All right. Have a great day. Voice, is it actually Shirley, right? Is it Shirley? Not sure. But yeah, have a great day, definitely. So what the important point here as well is, what I want to continue on is turning away from and not towards. That's kind of what he was mentioning. Like Jesus had to turn away from that, and the significance, it is significant because the essence of transition is to stop going the way we were going on to move in a different direction, right? So that's really important to navigate. Again, where do I need to go now? Where do I need to leave and move away from? And where do I need to go now in a different direction to kind of be able to follow my destiny and what God has for me? So Jesus, important is also, Jesus remains in relationship with Peter, just can't keep him as close as he did prior, right? Also, just kind of basically strengthening what we've already shared here, that, you know, if somebody's so close to you and you know he's hurting you and standing in the way, again, replacing him, replacing the dynamics, and just, even if it's for a short time, just kind of get him a little further away and have a little more distance. And that is what Jesus did here in this place. I think it's also sharing, after this powerful interaction, dearly clear remains in relationship with Peter, but he cannot keep Peter, once his great friend and comrade, as close to him as he once did, right? So very, very powerful what they're sharing. So I want to move on, because I know we're kind of coming towards the end. So I really want to kind of leave us and share this with the 5 ahas that the author is sharing in this chapter. And I think this is really where we can take home and really kind of summarize the thoughts that we had today. Because the first aha that he has is, realize that everyone cannot see and understand as you do. Right? So we had that in a lot of shares today, that either family members or, you know, even like mentors of yours, they might not see, even though they think they know you and know what you're on, they might not know all the parts that God has for you, right? And It's sharing, but because this is something God is doing in your life, the people around you cannot always see or sense or discern where and how God is leading you. And one other thing is with Pastor Sanders, right? We remember that story where he was kind of trying to stand in the way of the author of building that church. The author is saying, and I love that, because like Pastor Sanders, he did not have the vision from God that I had. He was not privy to the many hours of prayer I had spent concerning the building. He did not know everything I was sensing from God, and he did not perceive the genuine faith God had given me for the project. His discouragement was not personal. Very important too, right? We just said it's not personal. It was based on lack of perception, right? So it was not personal, but it was based on lack of perception. He was not against me. He simply could not see what I saw. Very, very important. And I love that very much because it's true. So ask that question. May that person see the same as God, and maybe have that conversation if you need to. And he's talking about people that you already have a meaningful, valuable relationship with. So it's not just people that you just randomly met, but people that already have a high standard value. Very important to know that as well. All right. And if you have any thoughts, ladies, I always want you to feel just free, just really raise your hand, okay? Even though I'm talking and maybe in my going here, please feel free to share and just raise your hand if you really have something on your heart that you want to share. Second point is know that building blocks can become stumbling blocks. So we've known that with, the story with Peter, right? Like he became a stumbling block for the Lord, for Jesus in that moment. And it's important. It was just that. But also what the author was sharing with his own personal life was that, while he was trying to transition into ministry, right? And maybe that's a place where you're at right now. Like you have a friend circle, but you're trying to maybe, go into ministry that God has for you. But your former friend circle, they're totally just not, getting it. Like they're just like, hey, let's go party, let's go do this, let's go do these actions. But you just know, like as a woman of God, like a man of God, you can't just do that, because that's just not how you should conduct yourself in this season. And to transition from that as well. Very, very good example that he's bringing there to bring this point in. The third aha moment from this, he says, like, understand that people usually have positive motives, right? And especially if we have positive, like really valuable relationships, like even families, right? Even though they hurt us so much, they don't do this because they want to bring you down, right? We had that today. They do this because they love you so much, and they think they maybe want to protect you, right? From something, from getting hurt, from falling down over and over and over, from getting discouraged, right? Because sometimes the path that God has us on is not always the bloomy and wonderful path. It can get lonely. It can get hard. And so your family, they might not discern that. They don't see that maybe. And it's important that they just kind of do it because they love you and they just want the best for you. But it's mostly not aligning with what God has in store for you, which is the ultimate best, right? So we have to definitely transition that thought as well. So because with his story, what he's using is the author and his father, right? Because he had to move away in order to go after his ministry, but his father was so upset about it. He's like, son, I want you to stay with me. I want you to, be here with me and take care of me. But the son knew, like the author, Van Moody, he knew I had to go. Like God is sending me, and I need to kind of just, take space from my dad to really pursue where I need to go. And he had to move to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And that's where he met his wife. So he's like, if I wouldn't have gone to that place, like I would have probably been single, he said, right? So you never know. And that is trusting. And one thing where God always is, that's what I love about God. Whenever you go and are obedient and you just go one step further, you never know what other blessing God is pouring down on you because you're staying obedient. Like, look, he was going because of a ministry. He was not going because he was searching for a relationship. Well, what did he found by being obedient? A relationship that lasts for a lifetime, that is godly, what fulfills him still years later, right? That was also like something that I learned. Let me see. Sometimes I struggle to pour down this chat here. Sometimes God's path looks halfway crazy. To the one who tells that step out on faith is real. Yep, I totally agree. So the fourth point is of AHA, be confident that the relationship can remain intact. Okay, again, just not trying to out of emotions, especially if we act out of emotions, be careful, because that's when things can go really haywire and, you know, out of control. Bring every thought captive before the Lord first, and then just see and ask the Lord what to do here, where to put this person. Again, what we had with Felicia's story, slow down, take distance. Where did God, you know, put you there? And just reorganize and restructure to be able to move forward. And the last part is remain hopeful about the possibility of restoration, right? Sometimes we don't know why a conflict occurred. It hurt so much, like, especially, you know, when we're in a season where we just feel like everything is falling apart and we, you know, we just have to reorganize, but we don't know if we can get a hold of it. Just know, like, especially if there are relationships that have been out of place, they can be in place again and God can restore it. So definitely just ask the Lord for discernment. Hey, God, like, I feel like this relationship totally got out of place. Like, what did Peter and Jesus do, right? Like, Jesus, when he came back, like, he restored that relationship. When he asked Peter, hey, do you really love me? 3 times, right? Do you all remember that situation in the Bible? He asked, like, do you really love me? Do you really love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Like, do you really love me? Yes, I do, with all my heart. Like, what shall I tell you more to that? Okay, feed my sheep. Right? I just love that so much because it's so significant that no matter what happened, because you had to follow God's purpose and you had to kind of, you know, let go of a relationship for a moment, there is restoration. And God can bring that, because yeah, God can restore everything that you may have lost. So what he's also sharing is just like shared values and vision. I think that was something that I noted. I'm just trying to get into yeah, right. It's saying like they had different priorities, different values, and different areas of focus in their lives. So that's also right. Where is your focus? Where's that other person's focus? Is the person's focus on the kingdom or on just something else right now? Right. All right. So let's see. Okay, constructive. Yeah, I think, to be honest, let me go look at my last notes here, because yeah, it says like be careful and constructive. So last points, and then I really want to wrap it up and maybe give some time to share. But relationships of value, that's what we're looking at. So every relationship that is valuable, meaningful, need to be handled with care and caution. Okay, so already put attention into it, put time into it, your resources, your love, right? It takes time to really just kind of build those relationships, and always discern before often moving forward, right? So standing still before you move. Second thing, if transition is necessary, move forward, but with sensitivity to the situation. Do you remember when we were talking about Zipporah and Moses? Like when Moses had to go and Zipporah was just sensitive to the situation, that Moses totally forgot to, you know, to circumcise his son. You know, Zipporah was sensitive to the situation, so she could step in. And it's also like, be sensitive towards that. And the last part is healthy transition not only paves the way for you to fulfill your destiny and do God's will, but it also enables a relationship to remain intact and opens the possibility of restoration. So these are basically the main thoughts of this whole thing. And I'm super, super excited, yeah, to read further in this book. This has been great to learn. And I hope y'all took something out of today for yourself, just to kind of really discern who are the people of, you know, value. Maybe you've already figured that out while reading this book, but really move forward of, okay, God, where do you have me on? Where are the people? Reorganize and let God move in this way. So any further thoughts? Last thoughts? I don't know, Ms. Marlon, if you have any last thoughts to this, or kind of just as a wrap up. Otherwise, yeah, I would just pray us out and leave us with a powerful message here today.
Amen. Amen. A wonderful lesson this morning, Sabrina. I think we all need moments of reflection like this to realize that there are changing places that take place in our relationship. Otherwise, you wouldn't be growing. It's not meaning that you have to leave a relationship, but it does mean that, as we are, taking an individual walk with God, He has specific assignments to all of us. Though we grew up, around our mother, our father, our siblings, our cousins, or, all the people that have been previously doing life with us. It doesn't mean that we're always going to be going in those directions together. And I think the main thing is to remember to allow people to be individuals. Let them be who God has created them to be. If you've had people that have, maybe treated you, like that, just make sure that you receive your assignment, not to treat other people like that. And sometimes we can get caught up into what, what the previous season brought in and not realize the destination of where God was taking us. So last thing, just always know that when you are shifting seasons, they are shifting seasons also. Just remember that. Just because you're shifting season, don't forget that they are shifting seasons also.
Yeah, powerful thought. Marie, I think you opened up your line as well. Let's see. Oh, are you good?
No, ma'am, I just hit the wrong button. I'm good.
All right, that works good. Yes, I think that was a great thought to just really to wrap this up. I really enjoyed this, ladies, and I really want to leave us with a powerful prayer, because we're all in different seasons right now, right? Like everybody that was sharing, you can sense that we're all in a different season where, we kind of, and I know in Miss Marilyn's coaching, she was talking about the different phases that we're going through with God, right? Like you might be in a growth phase, or you may be just in a like starting phase, right? Where you just first of all have to reorganize everything because where God has you. So just learn and discern where you at in the season, and that it's okay sometimes to be in that messy season where you just don't know what's going on as well, and to allow yourself to be in there, right? That's one thing that I really had to learn. Yes, there is a messy season where you don't have anything in control, where things seems crazy, but to allow God to work through you and with you and with the people that He's put in place. So really, really amazing. Let me quickly share a prayer here as an encouragement to leave us, and then we'll come back tomorrow. Which chapter, Ms. Marilyn? I don't have the schedule, but I want to just kind of have that, and that people know, especially on the replay, what chapter comes tomorrow. I haven't looked at the schedule, but maybe you can quickly pull it up.
Yes, tomorrow, give me just 1 second, guys. I have to pull up the pictures. Tomorrow we're on chapter 13, where it says, when helping you is killing me, how to have healthy relationships with unhealthy people, with Harlem Bell.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Heavenly Father, thank you so much. Thank you, God, for this time. Thank you for the powerful shares. Thank you for the voices that we heard today, that were just revealing, God, how loving you are, and how great you are, how you always have us in a different season, but always at the right place, Lord. You always go before us and pave a path for us to go. And thank you for the people that you put in our place that help us along the way. Thank you for helping us discern, especially about the relationships that hurt us, that are discouraging for us, and how to move forward with it, God. You are our God. You just help us so much to move in different seasons, and we want to follow you, Lord. So as we heard today, those struggles and messy and crazy lives that we're going in, God, bring clarity, bring stillness, and bring your presence in, and your thoughts and your words, Lord, that we can know that it is you, that we know that we're following you, that we can have that bold faith in moving forward despite what's going on, Lord. You are our ultimate strength, and we just see your word as a mirror for us to always reflect on ourselves, of how we're conducting ourselves towards relationships. Thank you for this blessed time, and just thank you for using me as a vessel to speak your word and to speak your life into these ladies. I just ask for a blessed day, and especially for preparation for tomorrow, and also for a blessing of her and Bell to speak the message on tomorrow. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.